Today, we are talking with Pink One Cleaning Services. We're going to talk about how a one-person operation has turned into a business with over 40 employees, multiple franchisees across all of Southern Alberta. We're going to talk about the keys to reducing stress. We're going to talk about the tricks to making franchisees highly successful, as well as how to turn a cleaning company into an actually highly profitable business. I'm Dennis.
And I'm Greg,
And this is the More Profit, Less Stress podcast,
where we provide the tools for more profit and less stress in your business now so you can turn into a valuable asset later. Welcome to the More Profit, Less Stress podcast. I'm here with Dennis Taekema and myself, Greg Forzani. And our guests today are Jacqui and Erin from the Pink One Cleaning Services out of Alberta. And we're going to get into a very interesting story around their company, their journey, and their successes. Welcome, ladies. And maybe Jacqui, can you do a quick introduction? What is the Pink One? Because that's kind of a different name. So people will be like, what's the Pink One? What's it all about? And where are you located? What geographic area do you cover?
We are the Pink One Cleaning Services, a commercial and residential cleaning service that operates from Olds, Alberta, all the way to Okotoks and in between. I came up with the name The Pink One just thinking of the fact that I'm a woman that was starting the business and just magically going in and cleaning people's spaces.
Cool. So Jacqui, you're the owner, correct?
Yeah, I am the president. Yeah.
And Erin, what is your role?
I am currently the operations manager, so I generally run all of our staff division and just the day-to-day operations, ensuring everything runs smoothly.
Nice.
Currently, how long have you been on the program?
With Greg? I don't even know how many years. It's been quite a few. 5 maybe?
So around 5 years. So what was life like before you started the program?
Well, life before, I was really searching for the right fit for a business coach for me because I knew that we could expand and that we could do well. I wasn't finding the right fit. And I noticed friends of mine coming up to me and saying, hey, you got to work with this Greg. He's done so well for our company. And finally, Greg and I connected. What I can recall very clearly is really wanting to up our profits and tighten up the business as a whole. And I knew he had done that for other people. Like I said, friends of ours that are in business. So yeah, just fix our profits, tighten things up, streamline our franchise, because I know that we had some hiccups there that we could use some work on. So I clearly remember being very excited to be able to work with Greg in order to refine all those areas.
So I can infer from that then that you weren't making as much money as you wanted to, and the time wasn't kind of going where you wanted it to, and the systems kind of weren't flowing the way you wanted it to.
Yeah. And after 18 years, almost 18 years in business, I knew that I could do better than I was doing. And I just needed the systems and tools and outside view on the company as a whole and what we could do to make things better.
You were looking for a business coach for a while. So what exactly was going on that was making you look? Because I mean, being in business for 18 years isn't a short period of time. That's a lifetime for most companies.
Like I said, I just saw the results that other people were getting working with Greg, and I wanted to do the same. I also found that I was wanting to do more in business and learn more. So to me, it was like paying for school, paying to learn more from somebody else about business. So to me, in my head, it was, okay, I'm paying for my own education, business education, by joining the Greg's group.
So then you reached out for help. You obviously had that very first conversation. What was some of the very first things you started working on? And what were some aha moments? Like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known this 18 years ago.
Well, the first thing we started working on was the profit plan. And I can vividly recall being very, very overwhelmed with it. And Greg did warn me, and my friends did warn me that I would be overwhelmed. And that's when I brought in my operations manager, Erin, to assist me because she's more technical with spreadsheets and stuff like that. Like I could provide the information, but some of the spreadsheet stuff I found very overwhelming. So I brought her in to help us out with that. Between her and I, we've really got it drilled down to a good system of working together to relieve my stress.
Before we started using the profit plan and tracking numbers and things like that, what were you guys doing to look at your numbers? Like, how were you tracking numbers? Were you looking at your numbers? Were you looking at those numbers and making decisions for those 18 years? Like, what did life look like as a business owner? Because I'm sure a lot of other business owners are in that situation today, and maybe that'll help shed some light on what they're going through and how they can maybe make changes for the better.
We were looking at our numbers, like Erin and I were both very involved with that, but not to the scale that we did that with the profit plan and working with you. So yeah, it was much more in depth, and it was great to be able to learn things that I hadn't have already learned, or we hadn't, and working together to see like, okay, it was putting us, making us, forcing us to set time aside to look at these numbers and figure out what we could do to make things better. So it was forced time for Erin and I, which we weren't necessarily doing as regular.
So
or as in depth.
yeah, or as in depth. So get into that a little bit, because I think there's a lot of people out there who say, well, I look at my numbers, which means they're probably looking at their
Right.
profit and loss. They're probably looking at their QuickBooks report. And then you're talking about things of like, well, you're going way more in depth. But for someone that's on the outside of this and goes, well, what does more in depth actually mean? Answer the perspective of just what you went through and what you learned more than anything else, because I think that's where the realization is going to come from a lot of people.
I'm going to let Erin touch on this.
I think actually, as a business, you kind of become comfortable. Things are working, they're going fairly smoothly, and you just kind of plateau and become into that comfort zone with it. Whereas when we decided to start working with Greg, we wanted to grow. We wanted to make changes. We didn't want to just sit at that plateaued comfort zone anymore. Yes, we could have, and it could have still been running the way it was. However, once you get into that really in-depth look of exactly what your company is actually doing, not just the numbers, it factored into staff and different options as to, you know, how to deal with different situations that come up, how to deal with different growth, how to deal with loss. And it really made you focus on a far more granular aspect as to what's actually going on day to day, and how do you grow this, and how do you learn from it, and how do you just keep that going instead of just being complacent.
So what kind of an example would you have of that? Like where you're like, oh, I dug into this and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Like, why didn't we do this sooner?
Little things as to factoring in, say, rates and things that you're charging clients, when you actually factor in what it's actually costing you when you get that granular, when you're looking at, for us specifically, say, drive time, supply costs, everything like that. And when you actually look at what those profit margins are when you get that granular, you can see where you need to make changes. Whereas when you're looking at it on that bigger scale, I find you know that there's probably more profit that can be made, but you don't necessarily know where or the best way to go about it. Whereas when we actually got that granular, we factored in, okay, drive times can be adjusted, or these things can be adjusted, and minor changes on our end made huge differences in that final month end, but it didn't necessarily affect our client end so much, where they were questioning, you know, increased prices and things like that. It just had us really focus in on those individual items and how to make those the most beneficial for us.
And the support that we received regarding these changes and teaching us how to make these changes and not being afraid to move forward was really, I think, helpful for us too. And actually figuring out the numbers, figuring out, okay, you need to do this, or Greg's pretty honest. He would say, okay, you're not making any money on this, and, you know, or this particular item. So then just moving forward to make the changes, and the support we received was great.
Erin, I want to go back to something you said about comfort zone. So, because I think a lot of business owners, or people in life in general, but business owners for sure, get in that comfort zone. They're in that comfort zone. Things are okay. They're not great. They'd like it to be better, but maybe next year will be better. We'll just kind of keep doing the same thing. What would you say to a business owner or a management member in that situation to help them realize maybe to get out of their own way and get out of that comfort zone?
Change is scary, and I get that. I think a lot of people just shy away from it. Nobody wants to change, right? Especially when you are comfortable and it is working, right? If you're comfortable and it's not working, it's easier to make that change because you're kind of forced to. But if you're comfortable and it's still working, it's actually really hard to make that change, I find, and it's scary. And I think that that's the biggest thing that you have to get out of your own head at, is that yes, change is scary, but with change can come great things. And sometimes things are rocky before it gets better, but we've always had the support from you guys and everything, that anytime we were scared and feeling like we were about to jump off a cliff into the unknown, you reeled us back in, explained things in a way that we could understand, and a way that made us feel more comfortable to take that jump. Sure enough, we never fell off a cliff. We just kept stepping up. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Our new motto is, well, my new mantra is, change doesn't happen without change. So don't get stuck in the rut of just being complacent in your business. change doesn't happen without change, and there's always room to change.
And I think the scary part about change is, what if I try something new and it doesn't work, right? Where I think in this case, you have that, what if I try something new and it doesn't work? I guess I can just blame Greg.
Yeah.
Well, and if it doesn't work, you try something else, right? I mean, it's really not hurting anything to try it. It doesn't work, start over, right? You're still at the same place you started, so start again.
Everything that I thought was really bad that's happened to me in business has made me grow tenfold. So instead of taking the, how can I do that? Literally a month later, something would change because of me just trying to do that and learning.
Erin talked about getting out of the comfort zone, etc. But then Jacqui, you said that's a really cool saying. Would you say change doesn't happen without change? So what are, I guess, two questions. One, what are some of the habits you have in place that you guys have in place to help yourselves not plateau and keep increasing? And then two, what advice would you give to a business owner to stop them from plateauing, to help them figure out how to keep pushing?
Well, I probably annoy Erin because I am the entrepreneur. I just have an entrepreneur mindset. And so once I kind of feel like we're plateaued, I'm like, okay, we need to do another area. So we're currently working on building another area within corporate. So we do that. And not only do we do that, we also work with our franchisees that are growing huge. So we just try to work together with them and not just with the franchisees within corporate headquarters so that we can build these cleaning businesses in all these new areas, just like I did in Airdrie, Didsbury, and Olds. I just keep going to the next area within headquarters. And like I said, working with our franchisees one-on-one, making sure that we're meeting with them. We just met with them last week. We're running our numbers. We're looking at the growth. We're setting goals. So just making sure to be accountable to each other and be accountable to our franchisees and the headquarters, because I don't want to sit where I'm at. I want to keep on growing, as much as Erin gets annoyed with me.
It almost sounds like when you get comfortable, you're starting to get uncomfortable because now you got to change something to become uncomfortable again.
100%. If you're not
That's
a little bit
exactly it.
uncomfortable, we've got a problem.
So you've trained yourself to push. Like, I think that's what the difference is. People that aren't entrepreneurial minded seem to crave a level of comfort, and people that are entrepreneurial minded get scared when the comfort kicks in. I feel like I got to rock my own boat before something else rocks my boat. Or as Steve Jobs used to say, I got to put myself out of business before someone else puts me out of business. I got to keep moving somewhere.
Yeah, and if you're not moving, you get bored. I do anyway.
Well, and I talked to one client about that. I said the problem with boredom is if you don't have a direction to go, you start to sabotage yourself to make yourself unbored. Again, you wreck the things that you built because you want the chaos back. You don't even realize you're doing it. It's like a subconscious problem.
Yep, I 100% agree with that.
So you made some changes. You started looking at the micros. You started looking at the macros, looking at different areas. You started changing things the way you run corporate. When you started making these changes, and obviously you made a comment before that some of them made you uncomfortable digging into some of this stuff. How did your franchisees respond when you started making changes for them?
It depends on the change. Everybody, at first is scared of changes, and I had some of them fight back on the changes, and they were afraid and didn't agree with it. But for example, raising our clients, because we had to, like, we hadn't done it in a bit. One of them was just starting, or a year or two in, and they had said, well, I'm not going to be able to charge this. And I would say, well, actually you are, because we're doing it and we haven't had any pushback. And we have to, like, our clients have to understand that fuel goes up, costs go up, rent for buildings go up. And if you do it in a way it's not like a big shock or it's reasonable, it seems to go well. So that was kind of some of the pushback. Erin, do you have anything to add to that?
I think, honestly, as long as we pilot any change that we're making first, and then we can take it to the franchisees with a level of trust that we've been there, done this, we've tried this. This is, the negative impact it had, but this is the positive impact it had. And as long as you go to them with clear communication as to what's being changed and why, and they're not the guinea pig for it, I think then things go a lot smoother, right? If we've done it first at head office, they have a trust in us to know that we've already piloted whatever this program is that we're trying to make a change to, or trying to start, or trying to run. And we're not just throwing the ball in their court saying, here, you try this and let me know how it goes, hope it works, right? Especially because they're new starting out. They need that trust level that we've done it, we've done the homework, we've done the legwork, and that we're not going to put them into a situation that's going to cause them to fail.
Yeah, so it kind of counteracts that assumption of just do what I say, not as I do. We've done it, we've lived it, we've proved it, now you can go do it, which I can totally see where that would build a whole different level of trust among your franchisees than just the head office is in it for themselves and they'll have to figure this out on their own.
Yeah.
Well, that's the main thing that I've always said to myself. I am not successful unless these franchisees are successful, and I will work as hard as I can work. As you know, Greg, I hired you in order to help with the coaching of the franchisees, which has worked out great. But again, my goal in this was to do with somebody else that I did with myself. So yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about franchise, because I look at this podcast is relatively new. I think we published maybe 14 episodes. What I did notice is one of our most popular episodes, if not our most popular episode, is the pros and cons of franchising, which then flags the question, people are interested in that subject. So you're a franchisor, and you've experienced the ups and downs of being a franchisor. So, and you don't have to get into those details, but what would you say to somebody considering buying a franchise? What should they look for? And sorry, just to be clear, not necessarily your franchise, any franchise.
No, yeah. Other successful franchisees, organization, people that actually care about their franchisees, not just the franchisor's business.
Support system that they would receive by purchasing a franchise.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
huge.
100%.
There's a lot of franchises I'll talk to where it's like, yeah, well, we bought something, but support doesn't exist, or we pay a
No,
big
you're
royalty
just on
every
your
month and we
own.
don't get it. Yeah, there's basically we have a brand and they've thrown us to the wolves and they've given us some purchasing power. But if I deviate from this purchasing, I can lose my franchise. And I've met way more unhappy franchisees than I've actually ever met happy franchisees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I had somebody come up to me this weekend with a franchise, and it's the same thing. And I said, well, I'm a franchisor and things seem to be going really well for me right now. So knock on wood.
or just keep doing what you're doing.
I think there's something to be said about a franchisor that you said you care. And I know the two of you well enough to know that when you say you care, you actually care about their success. And I think that's an important thing, right? Like, one thing is caring, another thing is caring about their profitability and success. That's a whole nother level. You know, I think there's probably franchisors out there that care and they show they care and they have meetings and conferences and all that stuff, and everybody kind of hugs and sings together and they say they care. But at the end of the day, these franchisees put up money and they put up time and it becomes their livelihood. No different than you. You own a business, it's your livelihood. So to care about these franchisees' success and them making money and a profit, that's a different form of care. And maybe, can you expand on that a bit? Because you do care about your franchisees' success profitably. And I don't think a lot of franchisors do. I think, well, I know a lot of franchisors don't.
Oh, well, I'm not here just to, like, my goal when I did this franchise was to make other people financially successful. And not just financially successful, to have the pride that I had within my organization and teach somebody else to do that. And I know the current franchisees that we have within the organization are very happy. I spend more time bragging about their success right now than my own headquarters, just because it's like, look at what they've done. Like, I had a text from one of them on Saturday and just saying, I am so committed to this business, and I have no doubt that they're not. It's just, getting those texts and seeing the success financially, emotionally with this team is one of my greatest life's achievements.
So let me expand on that question. And I love that. It's sort of a twofold. The question is this, and I got a little bit of a follow-up before you answer the question. as a franchisor who cares about franchisees being successful, like being profitable, what advice would you give? Like, what do you look for in a successful franchisee? And I ask that because you've done a bit of franchising and you've had unsuccessful franchisees and you have successful franchisees. So you've learned a lesson through that experience. And what advice would you give on what you're looking for in a successful franchisee before you allowed them to buy? And the other reason I bring this up is anybody watching this, if you're looking to buy a franchise of a company, you're about to hear a list of what you need to be accepted to buy a franchise and a successful franchisor. And if that franchisor is not looking for these things, then maybe that's not a great franchise to buy.
100% a stronger vetting process. That's what I could take from my experience. Another thing that I know Erin and I both want for any franchisee coming into the organization is actually working within our company before they decide to buy a franchise. So they can really get how the company runs, what they're getting into, and whether or not they like it or not. Because I don't want somebody to just be here to be stuck in a job that they don't like.
They kind of basically get hired on with us and work up through the ranks and see that full overview of from the ground up to the top up, what this company looks like to work for or to purchase a franchise of. One thing that we did learn as well too is you can't run a company if you don't know what they're doing. You know, you have to know what your team in the field is up against and what they're doing. You can't just walk in, buy a franchise and sit in an office and not actually know the day-to-day aspects of exactly what goes on and what everybody is responsible for and how to make that run smoothly.
Well, and it doesn't happen overnight. Like where I'm at, doesn't happen overnight. I mean, for the current girls that we have, it's happening very, very, very quick. You have to have massive grit and massive determination, and you have to get in full in and be ready to work very, very hard and then reap the benefits down the road, right? You've got to have perseverance for sure. And then on our end, doing a tighter monitoring and accountability, making sure that we're having them run the profit plans, making sure that we're watching those numbers and not deviating from our model. So it would have to be somebody that would be willing to look at this franchise model and know that we have these successful franchisees that are doing very well after 2 years into this, and then look at the headquarters and just trust and not make up their own journey or path.
So you guys have cleaning staff at head office then, and you make your new franchisees come in as a member of cleaning staff? Okay, so if I want a franchise, my first rule is I have to be employed by you to work through and go clean a bunch for a while, and then work my way up through the systems to understand how the numbers work, how the pricing works, how the hiring works, how all of that structure works. If I have a passing grade on that, I'm now allowed to purchase a franchise with corporate approval. Is that the structure?
That's basically the short. I mean, the last
short and sweet version.
We've had it where people have come in and they've lasted 2 weeks because they just don't want to do it. You have to understand what these cleaning staff are living, eating, breathing before you can be telling them what to do, because they're just not going to respect you. So we've had people that have dropped off after 2 weeks wanting to buy. We've had some of them stay cleaning for us for 5 months before they decided, yes, we're going to do this. And those people have been much more successful than others.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I think the qualifications for a lot of franchisors is, well, do you have the money?
Right.
Right? Because their only real metric of success is, let me take a look at your profit and loss and give me my 7% or 5% or whatever it is off the top. And by the way, here's your manual. If you have any questions, give us a call. What you're saying is, yeah, okay, Dennis, if you want a franchise, you got to go clean some toilets for a while. Figure out how this process actually works so that way you're familiar with it. So it's more of a, I have to earn my right to be a Pink Wand franchisee and not just have the capital to buy the business.
100%. That capital is nothing compared to the headache that I get if I have the wrong people in. Right? I don't want it.
Again, you're focused on their success. It makes a big difference. I think there's very few franchises. I know some major successful ones that are structured similarly. Like if you want to buy there's one I'm not going to name, but you actually literally have to live in the franchise for a year after you buy it, and if you don't, they'll take it away from you. So you guys are just changing the vetting process to work it before you buy it, not buy it and then work it, which I think is a massive difference compared to everybody else.
I hope so.
Now, in that context, Greg and I have talked about this before too. For most franchisors, a franchisee is nothing more than a general manager that's basically giving me a royalty every month. They're not designed to leave or become independent of the business. Are you looking for your franchisees to become basically owner managers or owner owners where they could go on and own multiple locations and have the office job and run the staff, or are you looking for them to always be the cleaning staff?
Oh no, owners. Like the group that we have in right now are out there hustling in their communities. They're doing everything that I did to build their business, and they're invested and happy because I want them to be just as invested as we've been here at headquarters. And you get excited. You get excited when you go to these different networking groups, or you're building your HR, or you're building business. That's what fires people up that are meant to be within the organization, I feel. The people that stay cleaning, you're stuck.
So if I'm working for one of your franchisees as an employee there, does that count as having enough? So let's say I'm working for ABC franchisee. I've been there for 5 to 6 months and I decide, you know what, I like the way this thing flows. I also want to become a franchisee. Does that mean I can then go from them and apply to you, or is that considered a conflict? How does that work?
It's not a conflict. No.
Not at all. So
The
then,
goal is to grow people, right? And if you can have somebody starting out and actually understand the business and want to grow with it and grow into a point where they want to now purchase their own area, I think that's a good goal, right? It's you're growing people and you're growing the business, but you also have that vetting process first. So if they've worked with us for 6 months, they obviously know that it's an amazing business to get involved with.
so you've eliminated the glass ceiling ladder. I won't just come work for you and now I'm capped to where this current franchisee wants me to be. I can be aggressive as I want to, go to a head office, apply for something and grow my own without ever saying, well, I guess I'm going to be stuck here until Sally quits.
Oh no. Yeah. No, I'm open to, I mean, I am living my passion. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and if I can help any other people with doing the same thing, and they love doing it and they want to do it, then I'm not going to be saying no to people just because I want to keep them in a bubble. I mean, Erin started with me how many years ago, Erin?
Almost 15 years now, and I was a very part-time cleaner that worked like 2 days a week around my toddler's schedule, and now I've grown to an operations manager. So there is room for growth within all of it. It just depends on the person, on their needs, on their wants, and what their goals are in life.
And I think that's what has made our business successful is, I mean, we have cleaners that have been with us 10 plus years, and a good group of them, and people that come back. And I mean, that ties into the franchise because you're doing it for the right reasons. If you're doing it for the wrong reasons, things seem to not go as well or as smooth.
It exposes itself pretty quick.
Question. So what you're talking through makes me think or wonder if I'm putting myself in the shoes of the audience. So you've been around 18 years. Roughly how big is I know you have a franchise division, but the corporate division, how big is that now? How many crews do you have? How many people working on the corporate team? Like, how many crews do you have? Like, call it cleaners. And how many people in the office?
So we have 3 in the office, Erin, my sister Katie, and myself. Oh, and we have one other lady that comes in the morning to help. So I guess 3.5. Our team members fluctuate around 40 to 45, Erin?
Yep, generally, obviously, certain months we get all of our students coming back and things like that, so we kind of go up on that. But yeah, we generally average just within corporate, average around 40 team members between our residential and the commercial division. To give you an example of the growth, when I started here, I was employee number 4.
Really? That's awesome. So how big was the team 5 years ago when we started working together? How's that compare?
I would say probably we were actually still fairly high in our team members. We were still averaging around 30-ish team members. The difference is how we deal with our team members and how we actually organize things now. So what we had those 30 team members doing, we would only have, say, maybe 8 teams out, and we have now learned to change how we actually organize and do that. So now those same 30 team members are covering 12 runs instead of 8.
Nice.
We have a lot of team members out, and they're running 7 days a week.
Nice. So the reason I ask is for someone viewing and wondering if they can achieve what you're achieving. Off the top of my head and without sharing your numbers, I think after the first year working together, your profits have grown by about give or take 50%. And as of recent, your profits are probably triple what they were when we started. So I'm looping it back to what you guys have shared about getting into granular numbers, making better decisions, having the confidence to do it, not being afraid to do it. With a similarly sized team, you've been able to exponentially become more profitable. And you've been able to pass that along to your franchisee and have them follow a similar path and do it quickly, which is unbelievable because your franchisee is doing exceptionally well. So the reason I say this is if you could share advice to a business owner watching this who just feels like where you were, which is I'm buried in stress. I got potentially maybe staff or franchise problems. I'm buried. I'm within fires everywhere. I don't know what direction. Maybe knock on wood. I hope next year's better. What would you say to them to get out of their own way, to give themselves an opportunity to be in the position you're in now? Because they're probably looking at going, you guys are lucky. My situation's different.
Yeah, that's kind of blame and excuse mentality, though.
Well, that
I
tells
would
me
just say,
something about your culture right there.
Yeah, right.
Erin, you start with this one, and I'll follow up.
I would say basically you have to start with being ready to make a change and then get yourself a good business coach to make you get granular and make you be accountable for things and actually understand what you're being accountable for, right? A lot of the times we could look at things and we kind of got it, but we weren't super held accountable for it and we didn't get it to the degree that we needed to understand it. I think working with a business coach that does this for a living and can explain it every which way from Sunday until you actually understand what the purpose of this is. And then you start seeing those increases and those positive changes quite quickly. But you have to be ready to make that change and acknowledge that a change needs to be made.
Well, and tracking your leads, finding out what's working, what's not working. Instead of just throwing away your money to the sky, we make sure that the money that we're putting into advertising, whatever it may be, is tracked in our custom database so we can figure out, okay, I don't want to throw money away. It's actually being tracked so we can see. And you don't spend the money on the stuff, like I said, that doesn't work.
Right.
It's interesting listening to you guys because it breaks it down for me from a perspective of you've turned it from a business into the business of business. It's become more of a, even the way you're talking about your micros, you're looking at your granular things, you're looking at your pricing, you're looking at how your HR is coming together, you're talking about leads, you're talking about conversions. All of this stuff is what you look at when you look at how do I make a machine run properly. Like if it's a car, it's what's my ratio of air to fuel for optimum performance? What's my intake to my output in my exhaust system? What is my tire balance? All of that stuff matters to make that machine run. And from listening to you, I can tell very, very clearly you've turned this from a cleaning business into the business of a cleaning business, if that makes sense. Which I think for anybody listening is an important distinction.
It's proven with these franchisees right now. And I could not be more proud because it has not been an easy journey. It is not for the faint of heart. I mean, we all know sitting here, Greg, me, you, and Erin, there has been times that I have been,
We've called in a couple of panics.
But I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I had the perseverance to find the right people and to teach them. And I couldn't be more happy that they're excited about their lives and this business and how far they'll grow. Like it's insane. They're how quickly it happened too.
So I want to dive a little deeper into that without throwing anybody under the bus, without divulging details that don't need to be divulged. I think this is a really important subject because when we met, and I know Erin can attest to this, you were in a position where, and I can 100% vouch for this. You were in a position where you desperately and truly passionately wanted your franchisees to succeed. I know that about you, and I can absolutely verify that. And for varying reasons under the sun, whether they weren't the right people, whether they didn't want to apply themselves, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, I'm using my own words, whether they were victims, whatever was going on, they just couldn't get out of their own way to succeed. And you were banging your head against the wall, passionately trying to make that happen. So you're in a situation where it's just not working. And honestly, I think most people throw the towel in. And you made some big decisions and some big changes. And if we fast forward, now you have a franchisee with 2 territories. And I don't know, for lack of better words, they're kicking fucking ass. They're doing really, really, really well, which is awesome. So what would you say to a business owner who's in that situation you were in, where maybe they're a franchisor and it's just like the world's on fire, it's not going well? What advice would you give them?
Well, find a support system. Just know that you tried to do everything that you actually can do in order to help, and then just fix it. Like, I went in and I fixed the areas that I could manage from where I lived. I knew that there were certain areas that I could not do within my team, and I just took it and I rounded up the troops. I said, okay, I'm going to fix Erin. Are you in or are you out? Because this is going to be huge. So we took over areas, fixed them, made them profitable, changed the rates so that they were correct. And it just took a lot of determination. Erin, go ahead.
Sorry, I think you have to know when to kind of cut your losses when something's not working.
Yeah.
Is the biggest thing, is you have to know when to call it a day and start again. And that's what we did here. Is there was a time that, okay, this is not working, let's start fresh. And that's where Jack said, like, we took everything back as much as we could back under corporate head office and tried to redo things and make things running smoothly again. And now look at where we've gotten to again. So I think the biggest thing is knowing that when you're beating your head off that wall and getting absolutely nowhere, there has to be a time that you have to know when to call it a day.
Well, and unfortunately, during that time too, we were dealing with a pandemic as well. So it was double the stress. But in the soul of my being, I knew that what we had, I knew that it worked for me. I knew that somebody could do it and just figure out a way to fix it. But it was probably the most stressful time of my life, for sure.
But kudos to you for,
And poor Erin.
like Erin just said, at some point you got to realize you got to make a decision to make change. And you guys did that. And you made the decision, which was so hard. And you made the change, which was an uphill grind. And it was a tough situation to be in. But yeah, I think the simple answer is it comes down to that. You got to be prepared to make that decision. When things aren't working, you're banging the head against the wall, like you just said, you got to make the decision. And you got to move forward and find a way. And you two did it, and the company did it. And now you see the result of that. And in hindsight, it's like, wow, that was kind of obvious, but it was very difficult at the time. And,
In the moment.
and good for you. Yeah, in the moment.
Running all those areas from corporate was difficult. But once we found the right people to take on those areas, to buy those areas, it was like, hey, this is the right thing, it's the right fit. And it's just finding the right fit for whether it be the franchisee or the franchisor. Like, it's not, I mean, sometimes it's just not a fit, and people try. And this goes back to my vetting process too, and the way that I'm doing this now, because sometimes it's just not a fit, and you don't want the just not a fits to come into the organization, because it doesn't work for the franchisor or the franchisee.
Well, and it probably doesn't work for the culture.
No,
Right? Like,
it's toxic.
the comment you made before about, well, that sounds like blame and excuse and denial and all of those negative words for reasons why people don't want to perform. You let in somebody who has that as a lifestyle. That's infectious like cancer. I guess cancer isn't infectious, but it's super infectious. It just spreads, right? Like, so it sounds like you're not only is it important for you to have the right person for their success, but it's also important for you to have the right person for the entire of the group's success.
Oh, 100%. And like I said, I am not doing this just to make myself successful. I'm doing this to watch and be proud of the people that I bring in to this organization, because it means a lot to me.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because I've often said to my friends, one of the hardest parts about being successful personally is there's no one to share it with, right? Like, the rest of your friends are
Right.
still stuck in a level well, they're going to a job every day. They can only get their weekends off. They might get the long weekend off. They're always exhausted and tired. But you're in a situation where you can actually bring all these people with you in a way that if you want to do an event, people can be available. There's a way to do life together that's not lonely.
Well, and I mean, you should have seen Erin before. She wouldn't talk to people. She is out doing, like, running this organization, doing speeches, up for awards. She's doing so much. And to me, that is making me successful, right? If I could do that for whether it be my operations manager or whether it be a cleaner that comes in just now to visit our office because she's off right now because she hurt herself. She's coming in because she misses us and wants to be here. And that's what I want, whether it be the franchise or just the headquarters team to get from me as a leader and my organization as a whole.
Very cool.
So we've talked a lot about what you've been through, the challenges you've gone through in the last 18 years. You joined the program, you fixed a bunch of stuff. What's life like now compared to when you started the program?
Well, we have thriving franchisees. We have a thriving headquarters that just is continuing to grow. Our franchisees have tripled their sales numbers and hitting record profit numbers. But beyond the numbers, like I said, what's making me the most proud is watching these leaders grow, watching the organizations grow, and knowing that this came from something that was so small. It was just me and a vacuum and a dream. So, and it's nice to be able to work with people. We have fun every day. It's a new story here. We laugh. We enjoy building things together and, putting the arena boards up at different communities that we're in, going to different networking groups. I mean, I guess the big difference again too is, you can be super proud that you've grown the numbers to where they are and to the team, to where we've wanted so far.
I think it's a lot less stressful now. It runs smoother. We actually enjoy the growth, whereas before we were under so much stress with everything that any kind of growth seemed terrifying, any kind of change seemed terrifying, and now it's actually exciting, right? We have a much better understanding of things, a much better group of us all working together. We can all bounce ideas off each other and learn from each other. And it's just, it's way less stressful.
It's almost like it's like we do work together as a team, franchisees and us. It's team efforts. I mean, everything comes down to decisions that I make within the organization, but I'm happy to sit down and talk to everybody to see their thoughts. And ultimately, it's just really worked. Like, it's worked.
That's really cool.
I love the fact you kind of highlighted, we focus a lot on more profit and less stress, obviously. I love the fact you highlighted you're able to do all this and grow things, but in a much less stressful environment. And not to sound like a broken record, but for someone listening to this, if they're like, wow, your situation's different, we're all stressed out in our business because of all of this stuff going on. What would you say to a business owner where their business is super stressful, they're panicked, there's a lot of inefficiencies, a lot of fires? What advice would you give them?
You can almost take any organization, whether it's not just a cleaning company, anything can work the same way if you put the same system in. Some industries are going to be tougher than others to make more money. We all know that. But if you tighten up the systems and be organized, like I said, any business can kind of run the same, and every business owner has stresses. So you just have to change it. Like I said,
I don't think
change
that's a
doesn't
great
happen without change.
excuse.
No.
Right? Just because their business is different, it's not an excuse, right? Every business is different. Everybody has stress. What are you willing to do to change it, right? And everybody can do something. It doesn't matter what business you're in. So,
and if things aren't working, you have to change it. You can't sit and feel sorry for yourself. You got to do something to make a difference, to change things.
So you guys made a bunch of changes. You implemented a bunch of things like processes and systems and whatever. Going from a stressful situation to what you just said a few minutes ago about how the culture now is there's not a lot of stress. We work together. We brainstorm together. Like, that whole statement was really cool. So that's why I'm pushing on this subject. How did your team receive that? Like, put yourself in your team's shoes. How did they see that transition to going from pretty stressed to now this new culture, this new environment where they're engaged and they want to come in when they're not working and they're away because they're injured or they had surgery or something, but they still want to hang out with the team? That's a big transition from a team to go from one to the other. If you're in your team's shoes now, what would you say? Like, what would they say? Were they accepting of this transition when the decisions came? Were they engaged? Like, what did they go through?
I think I'm going to let Erin talk to this because she's deals with our team members more so. I'm not sure that the actual team members knew the level of stress on the franchise end. Like, we were able to keep that together because we already had our culture built and our core team members doing the same thing that they were doing. I would say, on my opinion, is that the organization, whether it be the change in bags that we used or the new t-shirts we got, or some of that, we were able to have more time in order to put towards the team building, that stuff. I mean, like I said, we did it, but it was just more calm. That's my opinion. Erin?
Yeah, I think we actually did a really good job of hiding the stress that we were all under as an admin team from the rest of our team. It wasn't something that we wanted them to be really involved in. It wasn't something we wanted them stressing over either. We were stressed enough. We didn't need to add any more bodies into that. And I think we actually did a really good job of kind of hiding a lot of that and a lot of our stress level from them, and continued to promote the culture that we have always had and put on that show with those great big smiles and send them off for the day. And then once they were gone, then Jacqui and I would go and have our meetings and deal with what was actually going on. But for the whole, I think our team members did not see the level of it. When it affected them more so was when we took those areas back, and then they're traveling further. But other than that, they really weren't affected by a lot of the stuff going on. However, they do see now, even just with the growth of this franchise now, they do see how much calmer things are and the growth that they have, whereas that wasn't something that was seen before, kind of deal.
So Jacqui, actually both of you, I got a couple of questions that follow each other up. The first one is, how in the program, how do we measure true profit percent?
You mean in your program?
Yeah, how do we gauge true profit
Like on a profit plan?
performance? Yeah.
There's a lot of factors in it, and what we thought was our true profit is actually not once,
Or
and
was it?
we did learn that. There's actually a lot of factors in what that true profit percentage actually is. And I think that was definitely a huge eye opener for us.
So I'll help you cheat the answer.
So your
So
actualized EBT, something or other, NET, and there's a whole bunch of acronyms with it.
ABCD?
yeah, no, you just hit it. Actualized EBT. So actualized EBT is taking your taxable profit and then making an adjustment for a fair market owner's wage, because most business owners don't pay themselves a fair market wage in their expenses. So their profit's inflated, right? So we adjust that or actualize it by saying, what would the fair market profit be? And then the other one is we throw in any kind of add backs. And I won't get into the definition of an add back because, well, for varying reasons that you don't want your business looked at.
It's different for everybody.
Correct. So the point is this: if someone's watching this and they're a business owner and they want to understand, is their business actually performing, right? Because as a business owner, like, our philosophy is you should get paid a fair market wage as a business owner to do the job you do in your company. But as a business owner, you should make a profit above and beyond that. So that's where we call it actualized profit. So what's the profit after you adjust for a fair market wage? So from your experience, what profit percent, actualized profit percent, should a business owner be able to achieve?
Actualized,
Yeah.
they should be well, depends. So it depends on the business, but I would say the actual after all of that, a nice ballpark is a good 15%. Jacqui's aiming for 20 to 25.
So now what would you say to a business owner? And I encourage anybody listening to this to go do the exercise. Take your P&L, look at what you pay yourself as an owner as a wage. So some of you may not pay yourself a wage. You may take a dividend. That's fine. And we're not saying don't do that. But if you adjusted your operating expenses for a fair market wage for yourself, and then therefore adjusted your profit accordingly, if your profit, my guess is most people watching this, your profit's a negative number after that exercise. If you happen to be making a profit, you're probably in the 4 to 7% range. And Erin just said she thinks 15 is obtainable and Jacqui wants 20 to 25. So I'm going to ask each of you, Erin and Jacqui, what would you say to a business owner whose number is either a negative number or 5%? What advice would you give them?
Well,
Get a coach.
yeah, you're not actually making money. So look at your numbers, call Greg, figure out why, right? You got to figure out why, because you're not in business not to make money. We all are.
On that note, if I take a look at the average franchise, they're between 5 and 7%, sometimes as high as 12% royalty. That comes off the revenue, not off everything else. If the average business across North America is maybe 5% net profit, that means the average franchisee out of the gate is not profitable. They just can't be.
Correct.
So how have you guys
Correct.
structured your franchisees different? Because it sounds like on the one hand, yes, your head office, you're very concerned about head office making a very specific net profit amount. Are you guys also focused on making sure that your franchisees hit a very specific net profit amount?
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
They have to send us their P&Ls. We watch those numbers monthly, and we are their biggest cheerleaders when they hit the numbers that they have. It's very important to us for them to be successful, happy at their business, but actually profitable too.
And as much as we granulize those head office numbers, we do the same thing with those franchisees now so that they actually understand that just that P&L report isn't actually giving them that true reading. So we make sure that we go through granular with them too so that they know exactly why it's not as profitable as they think it is on paper kind of deal.
Or for example, like we've had it in certain cases where one of the franchisees that we had in the organization was just getting one-time cleans. All these one-time cleans, because we're tracking the cleans. Okay, is it one time? Is it regular? And we would have to go back and say, okay, well, why aren't you getting the regular cleans? What is going on here? So it's even down to that kind of tracking that we do with them. It's tracking their leads, finding out where their calls are coming from. How many more leads do you have than head office, so that we can compare ourselves into where we're at, right, Erin?
Love it.
Yes. Make sure
Love
they
it.
keep growing as long as us.
So
Love it.
on the one hand, it feels like micromanaging, but on the other hand, really what you're doing is just coaching them through it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not
And
micromanaging. It's just showing them. It's showing them the numbers so that they can actually know where they're at. Because if you know where you're at, you're better to understand. Like if you don't understand, you can't change and grow. But if you actually understand, then you're going to be like, okay, I only have 10 people that have come through in the past week and they were just all one time. How can I get these clients back in for regular service, for example?
I love Dennis's question because I think this is a real thing in the world. And I think it's important we talk about this because, as I mentioned earlier, one of our most popular podcasts was Pros and Cons of Buying a Franchise. For sure, most franchisees in the world are not profitable when you calculate those things in. And without sharing intimate numbers on yours, your franchisee is well over 15% profit actualized, which is, as a franchisee, is, I mean, I've been around long enough. I've been exposed to lots of franchisees, lots of businesses. To be over 15% profit as a franchisee, to Dennis's point, after paying franchise fees, is off the fucking charts. Excuse my language. It's crazy. And I look at it and go, you're a client of mine, so obviously I'm biased. But that being said, people out there looking for a business to buy, if you don't want to start your own, you want to buy one. Cleaning franchise. Well, first of all, a cleaning franchise is great because it's a low barrier to entry, meaning it's not a big financial commitment to get into because you don't have to build a building or build a restaurant or buy fixtures or buy inventory or sign a big expensive lease or hire 50 people to start working. Like there's not a lot of big risk to start. You're not sticking your neck way out there financially. So that's a big plus. But specifically, yeah, cleaning franchise can be great, but specifically a Pink One franchise, if they engage the system and they go through your protocols and they do what it takes and they apply themselves and they're the right person, man, it could be super successful. Yeah, I say all that to pump your tires.
It just has to be the right people.
Because it's fact. Yeah, correct. Yep. So if someone was interested in getting into your, we'll call it application process, because not everybody can get one and not everybody gets approved, how would they do that?
Well, you have to be open in order to work within the organization first, for sure. To get a hold of us, go to the franchise page on our website and fill out the initial information form. And then we go from there.
And what is the website page? that they go to?
Thepinkwand.com.
It's magical, right?
Pinkwand.com. You can check out our franchise stories there. Yeah. Check out our stories, check out our videos, see if it might be a fit. And then you can put an inquiry through our website, like I said.
Nice. Okay, one other quick question. What advice would you give to a homeowner or a business who's considering hiring a cleaning company to work in their business or house? Because obviously it's a personal, trustful relationship, right? So what advice would you give them in
Very.
selecting a cleaning company they're going to want to work with and trust?
Well, I'll name a couple. How about then, Erin, you can. Insurance. Make sure that you find somebody that is insured. I could tell you stories that if I didn't have insurance, you could have an employee that falls in the house and then that would go on to the homeowner, right? Make sure they're bonded. Look at their Google reviews. Find out what the team members and the community is saying about this business.
Yeah, I say when hiring a cleaning service, do your homework. It's because, as you previously mentioned, it's actually, you know, a fairly low startup cost, and you have a lot of people that are projecting themselves as companies or as businesses, and a lot of them aren't. A lot of them are independent people that have, like Jacqui said, no insurance, no WCB. They haven't had a background check done. Things like that. It is a very personal thing to let people that you don't necessarily know into your home and into your private space, right? Businesses, again, there's a whole bunch of other liabilities with that as well, but especially for your home, that is a very personal and private thing, and you want to make sure that you've got the best of the best in there and people that you trust. So word of mouth is always a great thing, Google reviews, things like that. And just generally doing your homework and making sure that you don't have just, you know, anybody off the street presenting themselves as a reputable cleaner, because not all of them are.
Well, and we get a lot of calls. I'd probably say a few a week that we get phone calls where it's somebody, oh, I used so-and-so or an independent cleaner. They didn't show up. Can you guys come today? And it's like, hey, well, this is why you go with a reputable company to start with, or you're going to be possibly, I mean, sometimes it works out. I'm not, you know, painting the same brush for everybody, but I can't tell you how many times we've been called to take over because somebody hasn't shown up or, you know, they haven't done a good job and we've got to go redo things. So watching out for that too.
If I'm listening to this and I just heard that, I'm like, wow, I want to hire this company, the Pink Wand, as a cleaner. And I know you mentioned this at the beginning, but just a reminder, what territories do you cover? Between you and your franchisees, what territories are covered by the Pink Wand?
We have a lot. We have a ton. So if you can't find, like in our area of Alberta, we have a lot. So, I mean, for me to list them, it would be, again, it's from Calgary. Our major ones are Calgary area, Airdrie area, Olds and Didsbury area, Cochrane area, and all the outlying towns.
Okay, great.
Everything's listed on our website, and if people can't see it there, let us know. Or give our office a shout. We'd love to be able to help you.
Jacqui, Erin, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your story. Hopefully it's insightful for people, A, business owners, but B, I think there's some insight there for people that are maybe thinking about being a franchisor or being a franchisee in a company, becoming a franchisee. So love the insight. Appreciate it. Thank you again for being our guests.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so our producer has a couple of funny questions for us to get to know the guests and ourselves. And there's two of them. We're going to ask them from each person. So the first one is, what's the most ridiculous thing you believed as a kid that still makes you laugh or cringe today? Erin, I'll let you go first just because you're first on my screen there.
That you could actually get a ticket for driving with your interior light on in your car.
Well, that I just learned something new.
I was today years old.
Yes, today years
Wow.
old. Jacqui.
That my mom knew absolutely everything and nobody could go against her because she was the smartest woman in the world. And my mom will kill me for saying this, but I learned that she was a human being later and that she does make mistakes.
Yeah, that's funny.
Dennis, how about you?
Because mine's very similar. I can remember as a kid standing outside a church listening to all the adults talking, thinking about how smart they all are and how sophisticated the conversation must be. And then as I became a teenager, listening in and going, wow, you guys aren't all that smart after all. Or that higher education was going to solve all my problems. That was also another nice big lie.
That's a good one. Really good one. I'm going to go further back in time to when we were really little and say the myth about an apple a day keeps the doctor away. At some point in time, you learn that might not quite be true. Okay,
You
second
realize you have all
question.
the apples by apple.
Yeah, now we have an apple orchard with 9 trees, and I got like a lifetime supply of apples. Okay, second question. If you woke up tomorrow with one superpower, but only for a day, what would it be, and how would you misuse that superpower? Erin,
One superpower for one day.
and how would you misuse that superpower?
I'd go back in time to when I was 18 and tell myself all about what I need to actually do in life.
Ooh, good one. That's a good one. Like that. Jacqui.
Okay, well, I'm going to spin off what Erin just said and what this podcast is kind of about, and say if I could go back and look at some of the business and life mistakes that I've made, I would tell myself that it's going to be okay and that these mistakes that I'm making right now are building a better future for me. And I would give myself a heads up to give myself a break and chill.
That's cool. That's cool. Dennis.
But like a superpower and how I would misuse it. I think I've done too many things in my life to misuse what I've got already. I think I'd rather go time back in time. It seems like time travel is the thing. It seems to be the whole. Everybody had a superpower. I have no idea, man. Like if I had a super fly, but I don't have any idea how I'd misuse it. Like how would you misuse? I guess there's ways to misuse flights. You could carry people in the air and drop them, and that wouldn't be or productive. I've got no idea. I've got no idea what I would do. If I could time travel, I'd go back in time and tell myself to buy more Bitcoin.
Right. So I'm going to say two, and one of them piggybacks off what Dennis just said. If I go back in time, I'd pick a date and know, say, 1 or 2 stocks that insanely go up in value. So to your point about Bitcoin, and put everything into those. So that'd be one on a selfish reason. And the other one I'd probably do is more of a, we'll say, a healing thing. If I could pick a day and, stop someone that I cared about from dying or getting ill, I would misuse it that way. Cool.
You wouldn't go back in time and prevent the guy from smashing your knee with the baseball?
That'd be good. That'd be good. Although, I don't know what was
Maybe you could
been
misuse
more...
your power by hitting him in the face with the ball instead.
Yeah, or go back in time and do something so I didn't have to go through that fucking heart surgery. That would have been good too. Because, that's shitty. Cool. Thank you, Erin and Jacqui, for being guests. We much appreciate it. Thanks for listening to the More Profit, Less Stress podcast. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform and leave a comment or review if you're feeling generous. To learn more about us and what we do, check out our website. Until next time, take care.